Hi everybody, it's me, Lisa T, coming at you with some positive energy, reading The Language of Letting Go by Melody Beattie. Okay, so it's a little bit of a weird morning for me. I'm struggling with a couple of stories going on in my head. So let's see what the reading has for us today, August 10th. Letting go of perfection is probably it. I'm like, the perfection thing. So, many of us, I know from talking to so many people, have we want things to be perfect. We want ourselves to be perfect. We want life to be perfect. And we have this idea of what perfect should be. And, you know, life is full of ups and downs, and perfection is an illusion, and perfection is a lie. If you're telling yourself, like, you gotta be perfect, like, we're humans. The way we learn is through mistakes. The way we learn is through, you know, things that we want to change in ourselves, and we learn and grow by initiating change in our lives. So it's never perfect. There's always room to grow, and when we put the pressure on ourselves to be perfect, we end up disappointing ourselves because it's not going to be perfect, and so then we feel disappointment, and it creates this like negative feedback cycle. So we need to let go of that perfection. Let it go. Letting go of perfection, August 10th. You're perfect in your imperfections. Life is perfect and it's perfect. Life is perfect in its imperfections. As I journey through recovery, more and more I learn that accepting myself and my idiosyncrasies, laughing at myself for my ways, gets me a lot further than picking on myself and trying to make myself perfect. We have to not take ourselves so seriously. We need to be able to learn to laugh at ourselves. That one's hitting me because it's painful. It's painful to try and be perfect and to put that pressure on ourselves. And I've done it so much in my life. When I used to work at this restaurant with my friend, I used to lay down on the floor so that I could see if there was like one speck of crumb or one speck. Like I would lay, you know, if you lay down on the floor and you look this way along, you could see. And I would lay down on different parts of the floor to make sure there wasn't a crumb in sight, because it had to be perfect. And oh my gosh, what pressure to put on myself. And that's just on a floor, let alone when working with this thing, you know, my psyche and my physical appearance and all of those things. It's painful when I look at how, you know, I'm glad I can feel the pain of that these days, because I wasn't able to access that before. So by feeling the pain, then I can do something to change it, and I can let go, and I can just laugh at it and not take life so seriously and myself so seriously. So as I journey through recovery, more and more I learn that accepting myself and idiosyncrasies, laughing at myself for my ways, gets me a lot further than picking on myself and trying to make myself perfect. Maybe that's really what it's all about. Absolutely lovingly, joyous, nurturing self-acceptance. I just had it. I was at the cottage, at the beach house for the week, and I felt this like intense self-acceptance. But get back into the world and get back into, like, you know, seeing the people I see and talking and having the conversations. You know, I was alone I met lots of people while I was there, and I did have lots of conversations, but I was basically on my own. And so it was, I think, easier to accept myself. We get into this compare game, right? Comparing ourselves to others. And that's where we get tripped. Well, that's where I get tripped anyway. So what we're doing here is looking for absolute loving, joyous, nurturing self-acceptance. Stop expecting perfection from yourself and those around you. If you're expecting yourself to be perfect, then that's a demand. You can't give away what you don't have. And when you squeeze an orange juice comes out. So if you're under pressure and you're squeezing yourself and you're that's going to spill out into the world, and you're going to have if you have it in yourself, you're going to put it onto other people too, and expect the world to be perfect, expect others to be perfect, and not let them make mistakes. And you know, so stop expecting perfection from yourself and those around you. We do a terrible, annoying thing to ourselves and others when we expect perfection. It's a terrible thing we do to ourselves and others when you expect perfection. We set up a situation where others, including ourselves, do not feel comfortable with us. Sometimes expecting perfection, like I talked in another video, you know, when we're vulnerable, you make others comfortable to be vulnerable. When we're this, we make others, you know, so whatever's inside of us, that's going to be reflected in our world and reflected out to others. So we set up a situation where others, including ourselves, do not feel comfortable with us. When we don't feel comfortable with ourselves, what an awful feeling to be uncomfortable in your own skin. Sometimes expecting perfection makes people so uptight that they And we make more mistakes than normal because we are so nervous and focused on mistakes. Yeah, you're under pressure. So, you're going into panic mode and then you're not thinking clearly, right? I've talked about that in multiple videos. The frontal lobe turns off when you go into panic mode. So if you're putting this pressure for everything to be perfect, look at my facial, right? You're going to make more mistakes because you're in panic mode. And yeah, so if you're in that, we make more mistakes than normal because we're so nervous and focused on mistakes. You're focused on the mistakes. That does not mean we allow inappropriate behaviors with the excuse that nobody's perfect. I've heard that from people in my past. Like, oh, well, I'm not perfect. I'm like, it's such a cop-out. So, there's a time and a place for everything, right? And it's about balance, as I've talked about. So this does not mean we allow inappropriate behaviors with the excuse that nobody's perfect. That doesn't mean that we don't have boundaries and responsible expectations of people and ourselves. It's about balance, right? You gotta stay in the middle ground. But our expectations need to be reasonable. Expecting perfection is not reasonable. People make mistakes. The less anxious, intimidated, and repressed they are by expectations of being perfect, the better they will do. So people make mistakes. The less anxious, intimidated, and repressed, making people feel comfortable. I do that. I think I do that a lot in my world. Make people feel comfortable, and then that expectation of being perfect is lifted, and so people do better, like in a job scene or something, Striving for excellence, purity in creativity, a harmonious performance, and the best we have to offer does not happen in the stymied. What does that word mean? I've never used that word before in my life. So striving for excellence, purity and creativity, a harmonious performance, and the best we have to offer does not happen in the stymied, negative, fear-producing atmosphere of expecting perfection. So excellence doesn't happen in the atmosphere of expecting perfection. Purity and creativity does not happen in the atmosphere of expecting perfection. It happens in the flow, in the ability to let it all happen and unfold, right? And set boundaries, have reasonable expectations, strive to do your best, encourage others to do the same, but know that we and others will make mistakes. Know that we and others will have learning experiences and things we go through, right? So it's being flexible. It's being able to flow and be flexible and mold to everything. Sometimes the flaws and imperfections in ourselves determine our uniqueness. So it's something that if you're comparing yourself to someone else and you're like, oh, but that I want that, what they have, but the things that are maybe imperfect in your mind about you also are your uniqueness and what make you you. So sometimes the flaws and imperfections in ourselves determine our uniqueness the way they do in a piece of art. Art that's like also some really like scattered, chaotic art can be so beautiful, right? Because it's not perfect. It's not a perfect picture scene. It's got its own unique flavor. Relish them. Relish these flaws, these imperfections. Laugh at them. Embrace them. Embrace them and yourself. Encourage others and ourselves to do the best we can. Love and nurture ourselves and others for being who we are, just the way you are right now in this very moment. Then realize we are not merely human. We are intended and created to be human. There's that human thing again, right? Which I've talked about in multiple videos. I resisted it. I was like, no. My therapist would say, but Lisa, you're human. I'm like, nope, I'm superhuman. Nope. And that was my need to be perfect. When I can let that go, then I can just be human and enjoy the human experience on my spiritual journey. Here's your prayer for today. God, today, help me let go of my need to be perfect and to unreasonably insist that others are perfect too. I will not use this to tolerate abuse or mistreatment, but to achieve appropriate, balanced expectations. I am creating a healthy atmosphere of love, acceptance, and nurturing around and within me. I trust that this attitude will bring out the best in others and in myself. Ooh, I like that prayer. I'm going to write that one down and use it again. Amen. One more time. Today, God, help me let go of my need to be perfect and to unreasonably insist that others are perfect too. I will not use this to tolerate abuse or mistreatment, but to achieve appropriate, balanced expectations. I am creating a healthy atmosphere of love, acceptance, and nurturing around and within me. I trust that this attitude will bring out the best in others and in myself. A freaking man. everyone. Thanks for watching. Have a beautiful day being your imperfect self in this imperfect life, but enjoy it all for its beauty and creativity. Love you all. Thanks for watching.